What's up all my plant lovers, Devin is here, and today we're going to be continuing our series on some of the basic foundational topics of growing healthy, happy houseplants. Check the description below for a video link to my video all about how to water plants as well as choosing the right containers. But this video is going to be dedicated to potting mix. First, we're going to briefly talk about what potting mix soil essentially is. And then I'm going to give you 4 recipes that are super easy to follow. Now, these 4 different potting mix recipes will cover everything that you need to know, including a succulent cactus blend, an Aroid tropical rare plant blend, a common house plant blend, as well as an orchid blend. All right, so soil. What is soil? Basically, on the outside of the earth, soil is a composition of minerals, including clay, silt, and sand, combined with different organic materials like leaves, bark, decaying plant materials, living organisms, gas, and water. But as you can imagine, going from one ecosystem to another, those combinations all come and exist in different proportions, different manners, and as such, plants that grow in those specific ecosystems have adapted themselves to that specific soil in that region. So essentially, plants grow in soil, and soil is the mechanism through which nutrients and water is taken to those roots, absorbed in those roots, and feeds the actual plant material. But soil also creates the structure for which those roots will grow into, which is going to hold up that top growth above the soil. But thankfully with houseplants, there's really just like 4 different kinds of blends that you should be familiar with. But what differentiates one blend from the next are the abilities to retain water either longer or shorter, the ability to create more or less airflow, and provide more or less nutrients. So finding that right balance or proportion is like creating the perfect ecosystem for a plant to grow happily in. Just like a polar bear is going to thrive and do well off the coast of Alaska, that same polar bear, it's not going to be happy off of the coast of Florida. It may stay alive, but it's not going to thrive, even though it's on the coast, by water, living free. We need to provide the right settings for the right plants. Now, the first blend is by far the easiest. It's just simply buying a bag of indoor houseplant potting mix. This is oftentimes going to be all that you really need to grow your plant happily. Now, there's many different brands out there, but they're pretty much all the same. You can look on the back of any bag and find exactly what ingredients are listed in that specific bag. In this one, it has sphagnum moss, cocoa coir, perlite, and some fertilizers. So pretty much every bagged potting mix for houseplants is going to have some kind of combination of those ingredients. The proportion that they put in are going to be all pretty much the same, but slightly different. Now, of those ingredients listed in the bag, the sphagnum moss and the cocoa coir are great for helping to retain water, holding on to moisture in that soil, but without water logging that soil. That's going to allow the roots to still be able to breathe happy and healthily. There's also perlite in the bags, which is essential for improving the drainage of your potting mix. And then also some fertilizer to provide some extra nutrition for your plants. Now, a bagged potting mix, this is going to be all you really need for plants like snake plants, pothos, amaryllis, rubber trees, fiddle leaf figs, monsteras, most philodendrons. This is really all that you need for most common houseplants that you're going to find at box stores or your local garden nurseries. Now, what's so important about the indoor potting mix is that it is nice and fluffy. Houseplants need nice, fluffy, airy soil substrates to be grown into. They do not. They despise soils that stay really dense and waterlogged. All right, so next up would be our cactus or succulent mix. And this is a mix that is going to be much drier, much lighter. It doesn't hold on to water nearly as long. It has way better drainage. That's exactly what our cactus and succulent want. And all that I do for this, I do 50% of our bagged potting mix and 50% of our perlite. I combine them together, and this is what it looks like. Much lighter in color, it's much coarser, much more airy. Now, this blend is going to be perfect for all of your cactus or succulents, things like Echeveria, jade, kalanchoe, crassula, sedum, desert rose, any of those plants, this is going to be the blend for them. All right, next up is going to be our Aroid mix. This is the mix that's perfect for our tropical rare plants that come from the jungle regions. Things like anthuriums, some of our more specialty philodendrons. Any plant that you spent some money on and you really want to make sure that it stays alive and thrives, this is going to be the right blend. Now, this blend is super easy to make as well. All that I've done is I have put in 2 parts of our potting mix with 1 part of our perlite, 1 part of our orchid bark, 1 part of sphagnum moss, and 1/2 part of our horticultural charcoal. So it's slightly more involved, but very easy to mix, and you can keep this on hand for as long as you need. Now this blend is much chunkier, and that helps to mimic the forest floor where they come from. In those rainforest regions of the Amazon, for instance, or Southeast Asia, there's lots of decaying plant material on those forest floors where these plants grow, where they're native to. So that's why we like a really nice chunky blend. Now the sphagnum moss is going to help retain moisture. The perlite is going to add in drainage. The orchid bark is also going to really add in great drainage. The horticultural charcoal helps to increase oxygen and nutrient uptake. And all the while, as those materials degrade, they're going to add more and more nutrients to the actual soil. So it's going to be chock full of nutrients as well from that. Now this blend is wonderful for all plants that come from the Araceae family. When we use the term Aroid, that refers to plants that come from the Araceae family. And that's plants like philodendrons and monsteras, anthuriums, syngoniums, pothos, some of which we talked about earlier with just our traditional bagged potting mix. But if you have any real specialty plants that you want to grow well, this is great for those. Also, Christmas cactus, orchid cactus, ferns, bromeliads, Dieffenbachia, mini monstera. This is a great blend for those. And the last blend is our orchid blend. Now, most orchids are at least partially epiphytic plants, which means that they actually will grow kind of in the crooks and crevices of trees, in limbs. They're very rarely grown in the ground. That's a different category of orchids known as terrestrial orchids. But we're talking about things like Phalaenopsis, some of the very classic orchids that you'll find at your nurseries and garden centers. Now, this is a very chunky blend that is 50% orchid bark, 25% sphagnum moss, and then 12.5% perlite and 12.5% charcoal. So it's also a very super easy blend to mix, and it's very chunky. The drainage is very sharp, but it also has a little bit of water retentive abilities with that sphagnum moss. And that is really going to help mimic the environment that orchids grow in naturally. And you can use this blend for pretty much any orchid that you'll find to grow as a houseplant. So now you know, creating the perfect potting mix blend for your houseplants, it's really not that hard. It just requires a few different ingredients and a little bit of math to create the right blend. Each blend has its specific characteristics which will lend itself to perfect growth for particular plants. But if after all of that you still have some questions and you're having a little bit of trouble keeping your houseplants alive, go check out this video where I answer the most common problem that people have when they just can't keep their plants alive. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful and informative. If you have any further comments, definitely leave a comment below, and I always do my best to answer them. Don't forget to give this video a nice little like and consider subscribing to our channel. We're bringing new plant-related content every single week. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me here on Plant Vibrations. I'll catch you soon. Ciao.